Hello. You can see we now have enough chairs because it's always fun to start with a game. Uh, I'm Ali Griswold. I am the founder of Oversharing, a newsletter that has not been written in a year, but they still wanted me to do this, which is very flattering. And thanks to all of you for coming. So this panel is about utility and necessity, how bike share is becoming essential urban transit. We have 4 great panelists and about 40 minutes. So first, I'd like to have everyone introduce themselves. Sarah, why don't you go first?
Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Barnes from Lyft Urban Solutions.
Oh, wait, sorry. Sorry to interrupt you, Sarah. I forgot to give them the instructions for introducing themselves. Can you give your name, your title, and specifically how you arrived to this panel today in terms of all your micromobility and other transit modes?
Perfect. I'll restart.
Yeah, sorry.
Sarah Barnes with Lyft Urban Solutions. I'm a senior manager of European operations and strategy, and I got here this morning by taking a ride hail to the Eurostar, to the metro, and then walking across the street.
Hi, I'm Philip Ellis. I'm the CEO of Beryl. We're a UK bike sharing company. I got here today by a Santander bike to the Eurostar to Brussels, and then I got a Lime bike from the train station to the venue.
Hi everyone, my name is Tomasz Wojtkiewicz and I'm the CEO of Nextbike Polska. Nextbike Polska is essentially part regional of Nextbike Group, representative in our country, operating for 15 years. We currently run like 19,000 vehicles in Poland. And this year we will celebrate 100 million rental in Poland. How I got to this plane, obviously, from Warsaw. And from the hotel, unfortunately, you cannot see, but after like a quite crash skydiving accident, and I have a pelvis broken, so I needed to take a cab. Unfortunately, today I couldn't be like 100% micromobility guy.
Hi, my name is Agustin Guilisasti. I'm the CEO and founder of Forest. We are the second biggest e-bike operator in Europe. And I came to Brussels by a Forest bike, 10 minutes free, so cost me €0 in London. That's very strange. And then I took the Euro train, and from here by ride hailing. So I did a mix of 3 of them.
Very good. So we've got a diverse use of transit modes on our panel, which I think is a strong start to talking about how bike share is essential urban transit, because clearly it was essential to many people's journeys here. So I think it would be useful to frame this conversation in terms of what we mean when we talk about essential urban transit, and what specifically with bike share we think makes it fit into that category of essential, because obviously the mode has grown a lot over the past several years. And in many places, I think we've seen a tipping point of bike share as sort of a nice to have or more of a startup that is in cities to a mode that people use and rely on. So Phil, do you want to take that first?
Yeah, sure, thanks. So I think as soon as we use the word transit, like we're already heavily leaning towards like public provision of transport solutions. And I guess what are the sort of characteristics of essential public transport? Something that allows people to get around the city, to live, work, play, and but fundamentally, public transport has to be accessible to, everybody in a city, from where you're based, the basis of how you move, your physical ability to move, and your financial ability to pay for it. And I think not all public transport systems, in fact, probably no public transport systems could say that they achieve all of that in every measure. Even exceptionally well-funded public transport systems like in Europe, there's still a lot of, for example, tube stops in London that don't have accessible access. And you'd have to say bike share sort of fails a couple of those tests as well. My Lime bike here, for me, was extremely convenient, but it was like €8 or something like that, and I was going as fast as I possibly could. So that is also like not that accessible to certain cohorts of people. And the economics of that is essential for how Bikeshare is currently funded, and perhaps we'll get on to the interplay between like funding models and how you can actually achieve sort of like making it become more essential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And why don't we go to you, Agustin, because you also had mentioned funding models, but could you, instead of just talking about funding models, could you tie it to this question of what we mean by essential transit and how Bikeshare fits in with that puzzle?
Yeah, maybe just a little bit of context. I have been working in mobility my whole life, before in Cabify. I don't know if you know Cabify, but it's one of the biggest ride-hailing companies in South America and in Spain. So after 10 years, we decided to start Forest in London. And we did it in a different way as any other operator in the world. So we started with the affordability. So we give 10-minute free every day to everyone. So if you ride for 10 minutes, the cost is almost £1. So we make it very affordable to everyone. But to make it this business sustainable and profitable, we decided to create like an ad service behind. So we also set ads. So each brand is sponsoring this 10-minute free. So coming back to your question at the end, I think we need to understand what the user needs to make it essential for them. And one of them is affordability, and that's what's crucial for our business model. And since we started in London, we started with 200 bikes. Now we have 15,000 bikes. We are the second biggest large operator there. And it has been crazy how London has been changed since we started using or giving Forest as a service. I remember in 2019 when I was starting Forest in London, there was approx every day around like 1 million rides every day in all type of e-bikes, bikes, sorry. And now it's 1.5 million every day. So it has been increased 50%. That's a lot in a couple of years. And the reason why, because the city has been pushing also a lot for making this happen. For example, adding from 90 kilometers to 400 kilometers of cycle lines. So it's more than the tube nowadays. And they're pushing hard to make it happen. And solution like us, it is making that possible for people who before they didn't have the money to pay that. And nowadays we have, for example, a subscription plan that is, we call Cycle to Work, and it's like less than £1 per day.
Yeah, and subscription plans have been a big way that
Yeah.
companies have tried to make Bikeshare more accessible, certainly. Sarah and Tomasz, do you have any thoughts on essential urban transit?
I do.
Ladies first.
Yeah, thank you. My background is in urban planning, so when I hear essential transportation and travel, I think more so about, how is the system reliable when a rider needs it most? Do they know that there's a habitual pattern that they can build in their everyday life, whether they're commuting to work or traveling for healthcare or going to school? And so I think for me, when Bikeshare has certainly become qualified as being essential transportation, is actually when it becomes really boring. So you can actually not think about, is there going to be a bike there when I need a bike there? Is the battery going to be charged on the e-bike when I want to pick up that bike? And those sorts of questions, I think, are what actually make today, 10 years ago, Bikeshare was very sexy. It was hot on the scene. Everybody was investing a lot of money in it. And now I think cities themselves have seen the latent demand that people have for cycling, and they're responding to it, and they're trying to make ways for the bike share systems to be reliable for everybody, to be more affordable, to think through mechanisms that they can reduce barriers to entry so that this essential mode of transportation can actually flourish and succeed.
Well, it's really hard to add something. If we speak about the essential transportation mode, and we speak about the bike sharing, it's for us always been an integral part of public transport. If you look at the public transport, what the role plays in the cities is basically not meant for making money, but for serving the inhabitants, the same a healthcare or cleaning the city. So I'm pointing to the prices of the public transport and bike sharing. They need to be affordable. We love to speak in Nextbike that our service is like a democratic. We try to democratize micromobility, like a bike sharing. That means that we're not focusing only on the part of the city where it's dense and it's really like a demand high. But being into B2G founded business, we need to serve the whole cities. So for us, essentially, always was like putting the bikes in affordable prices, close to the public transport. That's the first thing. Secondly, keen to integrate the bike sharing system with the public transport. We have several cases across the Europe, also in Poland, where we integrated fully bike sharing into the public scheme. And also, what is a very characteristic for the city, we need to step back 10, 15 years ago. In Poland, for example, cycling wasn't considered as a transportation mode. There was either meant for a sport or for a pure people on a village or on the countryside. So we needed to convince people. That city why started investing in the systems, founding them, and the first 20 minutes of each ride was free. It's actually till today in several cities. So this is convincing people that cycling can be a really cheap, affordable mode to get to the place where they work, where they study, or where they live. And essential part is in our meaning, still creating the ecosystem where all different kind of modes are integrated, the best on the one app, one subscription. That's just a still dream and cannot come true over the last 2 decades, I would say. But essentially, we believe that the bike sharing is meant for transportation, not for a fun factor. It's a daily commuting. That's why you need to be close to us, always available, affordable, the prices.
Yeah, that's really great. And
just to add something quick about that, I don't know if have you seen the article from The Economist 2 weeks ago? And for first time, we are seeing in London more bikes than cars. So that's at the end, people need to move from A to B, and now it's...
Well, I was going to say, I feel like we're hearing sort of good pillars of what it means for something to be essential urban transit. So what I wrote down as everyone was talking was affordable. That's obviously a big one. Reliable. And then I added comprehensive, as in the expansion of the network, which I think makes a nice acronym of ARC, or if you want to rearrange it, ironically, CAR. I think we could say good essential transit is CAR. So I'm going to move us on because we are on a tight time clock. But another thing I wanted to talk about, kind of in this vein of how we've seen bike share grow, is that there are cities where we all expect bike share to do really well, right? Like we've all heard about Amsterdam and Paris and now increasingly London. But I'm curious from each of you, and probably quickly, only in a sentence or so, what is a market where you've seen bike share do really well that maybe wasn't expected, at least from the outside? And why don't we just start with Sarah and go down the line?
Excellent. For me, one of the things that we've seen in the past year, at least, is we launched a system in Zaragoza, Spain, which is probably not the biggest city that anyone's ever heard of, but the system has 100% charging stations on the ground, which means e-bike availability is at 95% pretty much all the time. And so during regular usage, we're seeing about 8 rides per bike per day, and during peak season, it's about 14 rides per bike per day. So the city riders have really taken to the system. It's very comprehensive, and we're seeing the bikes getting ridden at some of our highest utilization that we have. So.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I've completely lost faith in my own intuition on what's going to make a good city. In the last few years, we've launched in some places that I thought were going to be a disaster, and it was great. And we've launched in some places that I thought was going to be brilliant, and it's been a disaster. So there is definitely still an element of chance, and an element still of, how desperate are the group of 15-year-olds to destroy your bike share system is going to determine if your scheme is going to be successful or not. And so it's difficult to predict that. But one scheme that we have that's worth just looking at is we have a scheme in a beautiful little town called Hereford. Actually, it's a city technically because they have a cathedral. It's 60,000 people. It's predominantly pedal bike scheme, and that's been going now for since your time, 2019, I think. And it does really, really well. It's a bit profitable every month. It's used at a really nice level, but it's this tiny little town in the middle of a sea of miles of marshes. So it's a cute little one.
So as you spoke, the bike sharing is like a meant for the urban transit, and it's like a question that the big cities in each country, they usually like adopt very well the bike sharing. The phenomenon that we see right now is like more cities become like agglomeration. So basically, we don't do the project for one city, but mostly for agglomeration around. And this is still something like is growing, but like it's something what surprised me mostly. Like we start watching that people are traveling in the summer, especially to some tourist destination, and we just try to follow with the bike sharing their the destinations, which means we have several cities in the summer. They're just like a 4 or 5 month season. But when you put like a fleet of the e-bikes or pedal bikes and the tourists coming from the big city, they know this service, they're just blooming out. So I'm really surprised on the coast of the Polish Sea, Baltic Sea. We have like a several projects, small and for a short period of time, but they're extremely, extremely successful. So I'm just really I love this idea that people get used to micromobility, and the micromobility is following them even to the places where they don't have them usually over the year.
Yeah, and that goes nicely with the reliability point, right? Where people expect to have bike share, and so it's not a fun surprise. It's maybe they plan their holiday and they just assume bike share will be there, and you've put it there, so it is.
I mean, we are only London, but London has been the big surprise, I will say, in micromobility. Just in terms of numbers, this year we're expecting between all operators to do around 50 million rides. Then Paris is around 20, and then Brussels is 3 million. So for London, it's almost 15 times the third city in Europe in terms of micromobility. So for us, it was a big surprise. We started in Islington, more in the center, but we have seen even better result in the south of the city, where there is no tube or less tube around. So people now is moving or using our bikes to approach to the public transportation. So, and I think cities in general will start growing how they use micromobility, because it's the best way. We call them the funny bikes, but also the most affordable and everything that we have been talking before.
Yeah, great. So in terms of urban transit, I think it's probably not a secret that the majority of bike share users and cyclists generally are sort of white men, younger white men, often more affluent. There's fairly good data on this. I think if we look around the venue, we can also see the truth of this statement. I'm a woman, so I can say this. But I wonder how we think about sort of bringing in less represented populations to the micromobility space, because again, if we're thinking about essential urban transit, part of essential is that it's something that anyone takes and feels like it's a thing that they can use and belong in. And so I wonder, especially again, just from a company perspective, how you integrate that with obviously providing a for-profit service.
It is really difficult, and to be frank, our numbers have got worse over the last few years rather than better in terms of the split. And without wishing to sort of point the finger elsewhere, but it is worth saying the most important factor to get a diverse range of people cycling is kind of not on us. It's safe, segregated cycle lanes, 100%. It's the conversation sort of starts and ends there. That is what's going to get more people who are not currently cycling, white, affluent males, to cycle. But nonetheless, we must try to do everything we can. And yeah, there's all the buttons that you can press. That they're buttons. They're not like giant levers, but design of the bikes, how you market it, things like that. But it's I don't know what you think, but it feels like safe segregated cycle lanes has kind of got to do the heavy lifting on that one.
Yeah, it's interesting. I did a piece for City Lab last year about sort of giving adult education on biking, and this came up because some of the barriers that were presented to people cycling for the first time, one is certainly safe infrastructure, but another is that a lot of people, they just never had the opportunity to learn to ride a bike, and it feels sort of overwhelming and intimidating to have to pick that up as an adult for the first time, especially when it's a skill that you always hear you learn as a child. So I know one thing that's interesting, at least in London, is that some of the tenders that have gone out for bike share specifically have investment in cycle training and things like that. So I wonder if there's anything also along those lines in terms of public interfacing that you do. for anyone who wants
Yeah,
to take
I
it.
mean, I can jump here. Like, we have been seeing an increase of people, women riding our e-bikes, and I think the reason why is first is also is related to affordability, because if it is expensive, why I'm going to use something that is more expensive than the two, but it is safe. So, but if you make it affordable, you can try that at least. So that's one point. And second one, we have been, of course, talking with boroughs to make this program to teach how to use the bikes, to make it use helmets and how to ride, and at the end has been working a lot, and we will keep doing that to make it safe, and every time that we have someone on our bikes, they look different, they feel different, and they get addictive. So it's just they need to try, and of course the city need to be prepared for avoid making any crash or things. That's I think in that sense London has done a good job.
Yeah. Can I do a quick show of hands, and then I'll go to you, Sarah? Whose company either like sells or provides helmets? No one. One.
We are working with the Imperial College to create like a very cool helmet that is very affordable. Yeah, because that's the problem at the end. What do you do with that?
Yeah, totally.
So we will make a good surprise about this topic soon. Maybe I'm talking too much, but
Very exciting. You heard it here first. Sarah, do you want to talk at all about getting
Yeah.
other people into cycling and micromobility?
I think so. Lyft spans a lot of Europe, UK, Canada, South America, and the context with which approaching underrepresented group shifts depending on the geography that you're in. But I would say in America, it's very common to have reduced fare and low income eligible memberships that go alongside general pricing that is significantly reduced, essentially maybe like 5 cents a minute with 0 unlocks. But paired with that, prior to being in London, I lived in San Francisco briefly. And what feels very top of mind for this question is last weekend, the Bay Wheels team in San Francisco did a partnership, the local nonprofit San Francisco Bicycle Coalition, as well as a separate e-bike shop that sells cargo bikes. And they did a Mums Learn to Ride class where mums brought their children with them, and they either had their kids who were on their own small bikes, and we provided Bay Wheels bikes for the mums who wanted to cycle along those kids, or the bike shop provided cargo bikes for the mums who wanted to learn how to cargo bike with their kids. And I think having those types of targeted events where it's not just everybody learning to ride a bike at the same time, but actually saying moms have a very different mindset when it comes to what safety means in a bike lane, and we're going to target and tailor this education to them to deliver something that actually like helps prevent the anxiety and nervousness that comes with cycling with young children in a busy city center. So I think certain things like that I always find ooey gooey and nice, and like kind of what we need to be doing to get people comfortable on bikes when there's not the protected infrastructure to naturally make people feel that way.
Yeah, that's great. So I'd like to do what I call a lightning round, which is where I'm going to ask each of you a question, and you can only answer in a couple words. No equivocating. I don't want to hear like, oh, no, none of that. So as a starting point, think about your biggest city. Easy for Agustin, he has one. And to start, we'll go down the line from Sarah and then come back to me, and I'll give you the next one. What color are your bikes in your biggest city?
The bikes for City Bike in New
Yes.
York
City, and then what color are your bikes
are
there?
blue.
Manchester, and they're yellow.
Biggest project, 7,000 in yellow.
Okay.
of course green like a forest.
Now, can we specify what shade of yellow, since we have two competing yellows on the stage? You can reference the yellow of this projector.
They adjusted to the public transport color app and like a whole design. So this is like a brilliant project where the bikes are perfectly like a fit into the ecosystem of the public transport in the
Okay,
Silesia
sure,
region.
yeah.
So it's a much more yellow than that one, much more yellow than yours.
Is it? Gosh,
Okay.
Okay.
It's disgustingly yellow.
Yellow
I
is
was
always
saying,
blue.
like,
Disgustingly yellow.
It's
All the shades of
the
yellow.
colour of the city's choice. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, next question. In this biggest city that you've identified, what is the typical journey like? So in terms of, say, miles in minutes, what would your roughly average journey look like?
I feel like the average journey in New York is very different because you get some people who commute across boroughs and bridges and things like that, and that'll be a 20, 30-minute journey. And then you get other really quick bops around the neighborhood, which are under 5.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hit in the middle and say 12.
Sure.
Good understanding of averages there, Sarah.
Thank you.
Estimates are allowed.
I think, yeah, I'd say about 11 minutes.
Okay.
About like just less than a mile.
Yeah.
Yeah, 22 minutes, like a 3.8
Oh, that's
kilometers, like an average
Oh,
trip.
so much
This
so
22
longer.
minutes comes from this 20 minutes free. So like you cannot compare basically if you're
Yeah.
getting like an every ride 3 minutes, then it's like extend. And the e-bike's like a less longer, 6.4 kilometers and like a 28 minutes, I would say. Even
Wow, that's long.
that's long.
Yeah. And London?
Commuter and 15 minutes.
Okay. And how distances?
It's like around 4.5 kilometers.
Okay. And then for that average commute, what would the price be? And let's say if you're paying on a per ride basis, like not in a membership capacity.
It's about $4-5 to unlock the bike, and then 35 cents per minute, I want to
Okay.
say.
So
For an e-bike, and then no additional price if it's a pedal bike.
okay, so that's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm doing my math in my head.
That's a really.
We have other systems that are public.
Hey, man,
It's
if
in
you get-
it's in
Hey, man,
dollars
if you
though,
get away
so
with
it's
it.
less when you convert it to pounds.
Yeah, so ours is publicly subsidised there, so it's about £1 for a pedal bike and about £2 for an e-bike.
At flat rate?
No, it just happens to work out pretty much exactly that
Oh, I
for the
see.
average ride.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Nice round numbers.
Accidental.
Up to 1 hour, you're gonna pay up to €1.5.
Okay.
So it's quite cheap, but it's
Yeah.
like it's still found by the city. So
So it's like a flat rate.
it's
up to an hour.
the price was like growing. So basically, to avoid people to keep bikes for a longer time,
Yeah.
because the prices are like close to the public transport. So
And you're also
€1.5 for the e-bike for 1 hour is like the
also subsidized by the
Yeah.
city? Yeah. Okay.
For pay as you go, it's
Yeah.
like around £3, 2.5 to 3, depending on the 3 minutes, and because you can watch ads and get more 3 minutes. So
Yeah.
and for cycle to work, people who has this subscription, it is less than £1.
Yeah.
We are by far the most affordable and half price of the lemon.
So
lemon.
of the lemon. Another yellow enters the stage. So what I'd like to note here is that it's interesting to compare these average fares to what you would think about as the typical public transit fare. And I think there's a noted discrepancy between the systems that have public subsidy and therefore offer probably a comparable or cheaper fare to what we might consider essential urban transit, and the services that are more or less private and therefore more expensive. Final question in the lightning round. What percentage of your fleet is stolen on a monthly basis?
And I get to go first.
You get to go first.
I actually don't know the number off the top of my head because that's not necessarily my wheelhouse, but I know that our global number is under 1%. So I would imagine that New York City is roughly the same.
Winner gets a prize.
Thank you.
Augustin, I must introduce you to my lemon guy because you are overpaying. About 30p a pop. I think it's less than 1%. But you know.
But in your biggest market.
Yeah. It's still
Yeah.
less than 1%. But if you think about it, every month,
Yeah.
if 1% is 15 bikes,
Sure.
if you lose 15 bikes every month, that's hundreds a year. So it's not quite 1%, but it's
Yeah.
probably similar. Yeah.
Wow. Actually, towards our competitors is a usually secret number, so we don't share it publicly. But like switching from the 3G to 4G, definitely the drop is like below 2% right now annually.
Us is less than 1% annually too. It's super low because the bike is big. London, you have small apartment. What you will do with a bike?
Oh,
It's like,
come on.
It's a fair point. I hear people throw them in the Thames.
that was before. Now it's not fun anymore.
Oh, it's true.
So we were
I don't
lucky
know,
that we arrived before.
Some people
After.
might still say it's fun. It depends who you ask.
You can write the book
How you
about
know
what
it's
people
essential
doing with bikes.
transportation.
Sarah would like to add that it's essential transportation when it's no longer fun to throw the bike in the Thames. Okay. And so I'm going to ask one more question, and then I think that will give us like a couple minutes for Q&A, depending on what we're doing on time here. But the final question is just, again, just quickly, but imagine you could kind of have whatever you wanted. What would you want to make your bike share system truly essential public transit? Sort of pick one or two things.
I would have an abundance of charging stations, so I think shocking everybody. No, but I think like geographical coverage is one of the things that docked bike share systems do have as a challenge, and having that breadth of coverage paired with actually having the assets all charged when you need them, kind of all you need.
That's so not true. Some sort of like really intelligent, really accurate anti-vandal Tesla, as in, like Command and Conquer type Tesla that zaps people out of the way. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So always fully integrated in the public transport as a part of this like a transportation mode, and increase of the e-bike fleet. Definitely, that is something that is growing.
Mm-hmm.
And last but not least, not going only for the city, but regional, like in agglomerations.
Yeah, great.
I think for me it's very clear, it's parking space. It is, I mean, in London you have seen that some of the guys had too many bikes, and we need to also to have like a proper solution, and that solution must be work together with the authorities. So we are suggesting a lot of use car parking space for bikes, because at the end the car is used only 4% of the time, and the bikes a lot. We share it, so I will say parking.
Okay.
And why not? It's easy. It's an easy problem.
And it's good because we didn't get on to parking.
Yeah.
I think I can take two questions. I have 3 minutes. I'm going to take two questions, but it must be phrased as a question, not as a comment. Anyone? No one. That was a tentative hand. But you don't have to, I'm not going to put you on the spot any more than I already have. Anyone else?
Thank you. Question for Agustin and the rest of the panel. I know that you launched recently 3 new models to carry more people or more stuff. So 1 kid, 1 passenger, and luggage rack. What are your thoughts on cargo-capable fleet as a way of extending the capabilities of the existing fleet? Is there demand for it? Is in the roadmap? How you go around thinking moving more people or more goods in the existing fleet?
Yeah, we are testing different new categories. One of them is quite exciting, that you can carry 2 people in the same seat. So to avoid people jumping in or putting the front in the back. Also, we are trying to do something related to the luggage on the front. So people who is traveling around, they can put the luggage and move from A to B without any problem. And that will help for cargo too. So yeah, but at the end, I always say like the bread and butter is important here. And we are always focused in make it safe what we do best. That is moving 1 people from A to B.
One more question. Yes.
E-bikes or scooters. So why one or the other, and how do you make the transition if you've started with scooters?
From scooters to the bikes? Well, I don't think you have to choose. It's like a...
I like to choose.
Okay, raise your hand. Raise your hand if you're pro bikes over scooters. Well, there's your answer. Bikes over scooters. Yes, to the audience. Hands. Bikes over scooters. Okay, scooters over bikes. Scooters unpopular in this panel.
I would say, like, from a operator perspective, like the operators always advocate for the thing that they consider to be their competitive advantage, which is also why I was sort of teasing Sarah, because their competitive advantage is the charging docking stations, and everyone's advocates for their competitive advantage. And I think with scooters, it was very difficult to advocate for your competitive advantage because everyone was basically using the same scooter, and so it was quite homogenous, and there was all sorts of people doing all sorts of things. Whereas with bikes, there's a bit of a variety. I mean, some operators use the same bike, some operators use their own bike, but you can sort of offer a bit more with the form factor of a bike and focus it on what you want to do. You know, you can introduce cargo features. We're seeing stuff where they want, and you've got them where they want like child seats and things like that. So there's a little bit more usability for it.
You're doing like a child's bike, cargo bikes, e-bikes, or like, you know, tandem bikes, which we have already. So I think the bikes will overcome scooters.
Okay, so we are at time. I'm going to do a quick Greg Davies Taskmaster style. So what have we learned today? I think what we've learned is that we have competing yellows and some lemons, and also that we can define comprehensive essential urban transit with the nice acronym CAR, or ARC, if you prefer. Anyway, thanks for coming. Hope everyone has a good rest of this conference.
Can I share a secret?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
please.
we have been able to achieve profitability. I think that's a very important topic in micromobility in general. And the reason why...
I gotta kick you off though, because we're really over time.
Okay, but the reason why is the ads behind. So
The ads, yes.
we have a spin-off if someone want to learn more about it.
Thank you.